Hello, welcome in or welcome back to my channel. My name is Deb from DG Reads, and it is time to kick off my reading vlog for Winterween. Winterween is brought to us by Gabby Reads, and it is a fun annual readathon, part of a series of readathons that happen throughout the year, but a good way to bring a little bit of spooky season back in to January and start off the year well. I'm someone who really embraces spooky reading all year long, so it's absolutely a good excuse just to kind of formalize it and make it part of my plans for January. I do have a bit of a TBR, although I'm considering it a loose TBR, and I'm going to be picking up what I feel like in the moment. The prompts to read something at night or in the dark and the prompt to read a horror or thriller, those are going to be really easy to satisfy, so I'm not super worried about what I'm picking up for those just yet. The prompt for a red cover, I have a couple of options. The side note to this one is it can be red or it can be blood on the cover. For blood on the cover, I have Olivia Worley's Final Cut. This one I have on audio and a physical copy gifted to me by Wednesday Books. This is a YA horror involving a serial killer and the child of a serial killer, I guess would be the more appropriate way to say that. Another book on my TBR for the month that definitely fulfills the prompt is Sanctuary by Valentino Canna-Repetto. This is a historical horror. From what I understand, this one I received in a Twisted Retreat box, and I don't currently have the audio. I think I could track it down, but this one is one I might read physically, where the other one I would be able to read on audio. For a book published in 2025, again, I have tons of options, lots of things I didn't get to last year, but currently on my TBR for the month, I have Our Last Resort by Clémence Michelon. This is set at a resort in Utah. From my understanding, this is the author of The Quiet Tenant, and I really enjoyed that one, so that's a possibility. And then the one that I am going to for sure be reading, because I've already started it, is Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. This is the supreme floppiness for a book. It is illustrated. It is just a gorgeous book. This was gifted to me by the lovely Claire at Claire's Neverland of Books, and I am halfway into it and really enjoying this one. It took me a minute to get into it. I actually started it on my commute home on audio and had no clue what was happening. Like, it just was not penetrating my brain, and I started to worry because I own book 3 in this series and I really want to like it because I know so many people who love it. And thankfully, when I got home and wasn't in the car and I restarted it, I was hooked pretty much immediately. So not sure, my brain just wasn't shutting down from work, I think, and just wasn't all there. So that's okay. We are in fact having a good time with this one. In this book, we're following Gabriel, and he is a Silver Saint, meaning someone who has been enlisted to fight the vampires. This is a world where nearly 30 years ago, the sun stopped rising and vampires kind of took over the world and started converting some people, started killing many people, and the Silver Saints are those who have vowed to fight against them and recover the world and protect humanity. As the book opens, Gabriel is held captive by vampires, and he is being forced to tell his story. It's not always linear, which is an interesting choice, and I wasn't sure about it at the beginning, but I am enjoying it. He jumps around in time a little bit. We are seeing when he's first recruited as a teenager, basically, and is learning about this world and going to the academy. We get a little bit of a school setting, and then it jumps forward in time to a more recent kind of escapade and quest that he's been on, and you see kind of the changes to his character that this work has made and all of that. So I'm having a fantastic time with this one. I got through the first half of this really quickly. I think I'm about 47% or so of the way through, and it is a fantastic time. So I definitely am going to be reading this. Obviously, it would fulfill the red cover prompt. I'm just now realizing if I wind up not getting to a lot more, because I don't know who I was adding a 700 plus page book onto a TBR that's limited to a week when I do have things going on this weekend. Today, I am about to go out, hang out with my best friend. We're doing some shopping. I'm running some errands, checking in with my dad to do a couple things, and I'm going to be gone most of the day today. And since I'll be with other people, not reading. And tomorrow, I have a live show for A Time of Courage and probably a watch along in the afternoon. So I don't think tomorrow's going to be my best reading day either. And what have I been doing today today so far, reading books that don't work for this readathon because I'm smart like that. So we'll see how this week goes. I haven't been having the best luck doing a lot of reading during the work week, but we might have to see if I can improve that this week. So I'm not making a commitment to how many pages I'm going to get to this weekend, or this entire week rather, but we will see. I am looking forward to finishing up Empire of the Vampire and hopefully getting the sequel and book 3 on my TBR very soon, and getting to some more thrillers and horrors along the side. It is Sunday morning. I didn't have a great reading day yesterday. I did better than maybe I expected to, but considering I spent a good chunk of that reading a book that didn't work for this vlog and this readathon, probably not my best choices were made, but that's okay. I had a fun day. I went out with my best friend. We got some errands run. We dropped stuff off at the bookstore. I made an impromptu run into Barnes & Noble and picked up the sequel to Empire of the Vampire because I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I don't own book 2. I own books 1 and 3. So made a stop there, sold off some used books that I was needing to get out of the house. Still have more to go, but overall it was a productive day. It was a fun day. We had lunch. We had drink with lunch to kind of just have a nice day. So with that, I came home, relaxed for a while, eventually got back up, did a little bit of reading and so forth, but I crashed out pretty hard last night, and that's okay. So I am still enjoying Empire of the Vampire. I still have quite a ways to go in it. It is a big book, but I haven't finished a book since Wednesday. It is now Sunday. That feels very weird to me, and it's purely because I decided for some reason to be in the middle of 5 really, really big books at the same time, and that was a bad decision on my part. But you know, we're going for a little bit of a serotonin boost. So last night, the book that I picked up was Our Last Resort. I overshot the halfway point by quite a bit. I want to say 70% or so, and it's just because it's an easy book to consume. I was listening to this on audio while I was playing around on my phone with a couple things and trying to do something on the computer, and it's an easy to consume book. Am I loving it? Unfortunately, no. I am obviously interested enough to keep going in it because I made it that far. In this one, we are following Gabrielle and Frida. We are following Frida's POV. And the book summary implied in my head, I hadn't read the whole thing in all reality, but implied they're a couple, and they're not your typical couple. They both grew up in the same cult, and they were about the same age. They bonded through that. And they weren't exactly raised as siblings, but they also weren't raised as not siblings. And so they have this complicated relationship. I mean, they're not sharing a bed. They're not having that kind of relationship, and people around them kind of know, but also kind of don't, that they're not a couple at this resort. In any case, the trauma of their past is kind of what interests me more. We are getting their life in the present, and we're getting flashbacks to their time at this cult, the man who was in charge of it, the things that happened to them, and it does have definitely triggering content. When Frida turns 18, she becomes someone that the men in charge can use and manipulate and so forth. All of the children are in a position that is not enviable in this cult. They in the past are in process of trying to figure out how to get out from under that. Obviously, we know from the present day, they did get out from under it. They have made their way out into the real world and found their route through different things. While they're at this resort, they see this power couple, or this power man rather, and one of his wives, because he's had a few marriages, and Frida sees them arguing. And then the next morning, they awake to a scream, and the wife in that couple is dead at the bottom of a cliff. Ultimately, Frida has suspicions about the husband. The police are investigating. Was it an accident? Was it murder? Who's to blame? At the beginning of the book, we find out there's a documentary that people want to make about this cult situation they had been in, and they're kind of getting together, these two, to discuss it maybe. Gabriel wants to do the documentary. It's the first time he's wanted to speak up publicly. And so it's kind of going into how their viewpoint on life is different because of their upbringing, how things are working against them because of that, but also how they came to get out of that situation. And that part I'm finding interesting. I'm just kind of finding it slow. There's not really anything that's grabbing me 100%. I do like Frida for the most part. I am wary of what Gabriel is up to, and she is starting to get a little bit wary of it too, although they are so closely bonded. She can't imagine he could have done anything bad. And I don't know. So I'm going to finish this up today. We're going to get the serotonin boost of finishing a book, and I am going to still be working on Empire of the Vampire as well. Today I have a live show. I have a watch along. I'm not sure it's going to be the absolute best reading day, but I'm going to make of it what I can. Kylie's found her ball. So I think it's time to make coffee and play fetch and get back to reading. Happy Monday. I did not, I don't think, check in with you yesterday. Yesterday was a very busy day. It was a good day. It was a productive day. So I have a whole stack of books here to talk to you about. But I had a little bit of trouble sleeping the night before, wound up waking up later than I intended. And then I had the live show with Becca, hence why I'm still sitting in front of their bookshelves where I sit for those shows. And then I participated in a Lost Watch Along with Monica on Monica's Shelves. And that was a lot of fun. And then I needed a break and I took a bit of a rest. Not quite a nap, but close. And then I decided I wanted to crochet and put on some audiobook. So that's when I started getting productive because I got really into my crochet groove and worked on a blanket that I've been working on for ages. It was a crochet along from, I want to say summer. It might have been summer, could have been spring. I don't know. Anyway, I'm behind. Obviously, I'm on week 5 as of last night out of 6 plus a border, I think is what the layout of it was. In any case, I am very behind on that, but I've gotten motivated to start working on that one since I have a new blanket crochet along starting in February. Hi, buddy. You came to join us. Yeah. Okay. In any case, like I said, I got a lot of reading in yesterday and a little bit on Saturday night. Since last I updated you, Kylie's investigating my coffee and I don't want her to have my coffee, so let me rearrange a little bit. She usually doesn't care about coffee, but I bought a milk frother and I think the milk in it is what's drawing her attention. In any case, I did finish up Our Last Resort and I was disappointed. I think it was interesting enough to keep me wanting to know what was going on in here, but not enough to really truly surprised me with any of the intended twists. I think the kind of cult life, the past timeline, was actually the one that held my attention the most. And with that, I think there was some good writing in here. I think the characters were interesting. The main character especially, I felt like some of the side characters were a little surface. And the plot was not super engaging, but engaging enough to keep me reading. So I think this one's landing at a 3 to a 3.5 for me. Not a huge win to start things off, but that's okay. Moving on. This is the naked hardcover version of Sanctuary, which is this cover over here. I just pulled it off because I am now halfway into this. I did wind up picking up the audiobook. My library doesn't have it on Libby, but it is on Hoopla, so I was able to get it there because it wasn't the type of story that was really going to hold my attention super well. I don't think reading in print. I assumed when I saw this was going to be dual timeline that it would be kind of your typical, there's a historical horror story happening and then something in the present day happening. No, there's 2 very distinct timelines, but they're both extremely historical. We have a 1596 timeline and an 1833 timeline. So nothing modern is happening in here. In the oldest timeline, we are following this family who moves to this new place. They are struggling financially. They've had some really bad setbacks, but they've bought this land, and if they can just get a successful harvest out of it, they will be back on their feet. They are the kind of overseers of this land, and then they have farmers who work under them on their own plots of land on the land. They're the ones who are responsible for kind of the big stuff like the dam and the water mill and things like that, but things start going very, very wrong from the outset and they are in deep trouble. It's a little unclear what's going on, but it seems like people are out to get them. They don't make the best original impression with their neighbors. They are much more fancy. They're used to the big city life and fancy things, and people think they're a little snooty. They think their kids are devils. They kind of think themselves their kids are a little bit devilish, but they're the parents and they're not going to put up with hearing that from other people. I want to say the present timeline. It's not present. The more recent timeline, there's people moving into the same estate. It's very run down. The house is flooded. The house is falling apart. The water mill's not working right. And weird things are happening in this timeline. Like there's a bunch of bells and they all overheat. And obviously this is in the 1800s. So we're not talking typical, electronics overheating. Something weird's going on. So it's holding enough attention that with the audiobook and crochet, I was engaged to keep going. I'm keeping track of the different women and their stories and what's going on in their timeline. But I'm really hoping now that I'm at the halfway point that things are going to start getting weirder and wilder and it's going to grab me more. I am not a big historical fiction reader at this point. Historical horror can still work for me, but it needs to start doing something more. Right now it's sitting at a midway 3-star, I think. And that's just because, the writing itself is fine. The characters are developed, are interesting enough, but it's just not completely grabbing me. So I reached halfway into that one and I wanted to keep going, and I did still need to fulfill the prompt to read something at night. So last night after it got dark, I did start yet another book, and that is Final Cut by Olivia Worley. And in this one, we are following Hazel. She is a young woman who loves slasher films. And unbeknownst to her, when she started this obsession, her own father was once a evil slasher. He was a high school teacher. He was accused of and eventually admitted to killing some of his students. And this is something that she and her mother have kind of run from. They've changed their lives and moved from place to place and never really kind of admitted their ties to this. This all happened when she was very, very young. She basically doesn't remember her father, and her mother's kind of kept it from her, away from her as much as possible over the years. She is finally getting her chance to appear as a actress in a slasher movie, but it is set in her old hometown, the town where students were killed. And once she shows up to this movie set, she begins to realize that this movie is kind of based on her father's event and what happened to the people. But she's also learning that not everyone believes her father did it. There's potentially some other theories floating out there, and she begins kind of investigating as well. Things on her movie set are also not going smoothly. There seems to be a lot of quote-unquote accidents happening, and she doesn't really believe that they are, of course, accidents. This one is definitely holding my attention the best of the 3 books we've just talked about. I had a good time with this. I flew through the first half. It's not super chunky. It's YA horror. Those usually read pretty quickly, and this is definitely the one I'm most excited to get back to. But since it's my read at night book, I will wait and read it tonight. But I don't want to jinx myself, but I could potentially finally have finished another book tonight. I feel like I haven't been finishing a lot of books this year. It's not entirely true, but it's that I have like 6 books currently in progress that are not making a lot of progress. And then alongside all of this, I have made a little bit more progress in Empire of the Vampire. I'm at 70%. I'm not going to say too much because I need to get going to work, and I've been yapping for far too long, and Kylie is about to slip out of my lap. But this one is going well still. I'm still having a good time with it, and I will let you know more once I've finished it. But this is the one I think I'm going to prioritize on my commute probably today. It'll feel good to get one of my chunky books finished, and then I will feel much better about actually succeeding at this TBR. I do need to hit one more prompt in theory with this readathon. There is just the read a thriller or horror. Obviously any of these would work for that if I want to double up on points, if I absolutely have to, but I'm going to try to squeeze one more in as well. Things will slow down typically during the work week for me, so we'll see, but that is currently the plan. It is Tuesday morning, and I finally feel like I'm getting somewhere with this readathon. I'm doing pretty well, actually, so I have a few updates for you. First off, I did finish up Sanctuary last night, and this one just had a lot of anti-Deb buzzwords going for it. It wound up very focused in a lot of ways on pregnancy and childbirth and children in general. The horror in here, a lot of it, at least in the furthest back timeline, was more human enacted. There is the supernatural in here, but it's not, I wouldn't say, even the main focus of what's going on. There's the impact of what happened in the further back timeline to what happens in the more present timeline, but it just didn't hook me in. It felt slow. It didn't go as wild as I wanted it to, and it definitely relies heavily on the unreliable woman, hysterical woman type of trope going on, and that's just not my favorite thing unless it's used in a really unique way. So in the end, this one was a 2.5 for me, not one that really worked for me, but honestly, horror related to motherhood, horror related to just pure historical fiction is not generally my favorite, so I probably shouldn't be too surprised, but I did read and get to a book from a book box, which is one of my goals for this year. So there's that. I also finished up my reading at night book, Final Cut, and this one was a lot more fun and engaging, and it's just a wild time. It's YA. I don't know if I had said that before. The characters are like 18, and they're dealing with a lot. Our main character, of course, having a dad who is a convicted, confessed serial killer, definitely weighs on her, and as they get further into the movie and things start going more and more wrong and bodies start piling up, there are a lot of questions about what happened in the past, what is happening in the present, And I think the author did a pretty good job of pointing fingers at a few characters and giving reasons why they were suspects, but then also throwing in twists and things that I definitely did not see coming. And I had a good time with this overall. I like also that this does play around with the tropes of horror and the kind of discussions around what the final girl means, what the draw is of a slasher, and different things like that have a little bit more of a meta discussion going on in here, which I enjoyed. The characters were fine in general. Not all of them felt super fleshed out, but we do get some variety, we get some diversity, and I like that. And we get just different motives of what's going on in here. So all of that together, I'm winding up giving this on the lower end of 4-star maybe, but a 4-star nonetheless. And then last but not least, I'm not that far into it, maybe 30%. I am reading Dead in the Water by John Mars. This is a gifted audiobook copy I have from Brilliance Publishing. This one comes out on January 20th, and I just started listening to it last night as I was trying to wrap up a little bit of crochet before bed, and I am enjoying myself with it so far. This one is following a man, and he is out swimming with his ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, ex-wife, I don't know, his ex, and they are still really close friends. In fact, he is being asked to be her and her partner's sperm donor and father to their baby. So they've maintained a very close relationship, and she's challenged him to go swimming even though this is something that scares him. And he nearly drowns, like he's actually dead when she pulls him out of the water. And when he wakes up, he asks her, "Who's the boy that I killed?" or something along those lines. And no one knows what that means. He has murky recollections from his past. His mother passed away. He was in foster care. He has a lot of questions about his background, but especially what is it about this boy? Because he begins to see this boy following him around. Almost he can feel him kind of breathing down his neck, and he believes this is something in his head. He believes it's a mental health thing. It's a stress-induced something, whatever. And he's not thinking so far that this is going a paranormal direction where he's actually being haunted. But my brain and my horror-loving brain is kind of wondering if it might go that way. I don't know yet. And his life is kind of falling apart because he's just obsessed with this. He's not eating. He's not sleeping well. Things are kind of clearly wrong with him. And he's begun to want to kind of go back to being dead for a little bit to figure out if he can have more flashes of memory to figure out what exactly happened with this boy. Did he kill someone? Did he not save someone? This boy seems menacing, seems angry with him, and he's very intrigued, as am I. So this is going to definitely be an audiobook I'm going to be continuing on with today. I still have about 25% left in Empire of the Vampire, and of course the readathon ends on Thursday. So with all of that, I'm hopeful at this point that I will get everything done that I need to by Thursday to be able to wrap things up. But for now, I do need to get going to work. I put dinner in the crock pot, which took up my morning so far. And that means I have done no prep of breakfast, lunch, anything that needs to get done before I go out the door. So I need to get to it, and I will check in later. I am back because it's time to wrap up Winterween. I have indeed finished off my final books. Dead in the Water, I absolutely was hooked to this yesterday. I flew through the rest of it. I was multitasking at work, and this was the perfect book for that. I will say it starts relatively slow. It takes a while to get going, but once it did, my intrigue level was high throughout the book, really. But once it kind of gets to the point of getting some twists and turns, I did not see things coming that were coming to us. It didn't go the direction I thought it would. I do think it was really an interesting kind of character study of our main character, and the idea of him all of a sudden seeing these things that he's not sure about, and that kind of grows over the course of the book, and this vision of this boy that it seems like he might have done something to, but he doesn't remember anything about it, and we start getting answers, and there are twists and turns, and John Mars really knows how to pull those twists and turns off, and kind of final twists even. There is an overlap, I found out, with this book and one of his previous books that I have not read. There's a character from that who shows up fairly prominently in this one, but I don't think that impacted my reading of it. Do I wish I had read that other book first? Yes, because I don't know how knowing the character here might color my perception of that one when I finally get to it, but I don't think it impacted my reading of this particular book. That book is The Good Samaritan, I think, in case you're interested. There are, as usual, unusual, some little Easter eggs to his other series. Like he mentions the character asking a question of the artificial kind of bot that they have, their version of the kind of dots and things from Amazon. I won't say the name so it doesn't accidentally set anyone's off, including mine, but that I recognize when he mentioned it as being something that we've seen in other books. So this is definitely set within the John Mars universe, but you don't need to have read anything else. Those things I don't think are going to disturb the story if you're not aware that they're Easter eggs for other things. Overall, this one wasn't a new favorite John Mars for me, but I certainly had a good time with it. I'm giving it 4 stars. It's a little bit maybe on the lower end of a 4-star, but I had a great time with it. So I'm glad that I was able to get to it. This one is going to be out on Tuesday. I believe this vlog is going up this weekend, so this coming Tuesday. And then last but certainly not least, I finished up Empire of the Vampire. Certainly not least in number of pages, certainly not least in the fact that I really enjoyed this one. I think this was my favorite out of all of them, and the one I was most worried about getting in this week just because of the time limit and the 750 page count. But I am so glad that I persisted and didn't change my mind and switch to a different book. I think the twists and turns that this one has at the end have me really excited to go into book 2. There were a few things that I definitely did predict would happen, but a lot more that I did not. And there's some kind of touching sentimental moments. There's found family moments. There's a lot of things in here that just worked really well for me. I like our main character. I like his mission and why he's doing it, and all of that kind of makes sense to me. And yeah, I am very glad that I have book 2 on hand now and that I don't have any time to be reading at the moment, but hopefully will soon. So with that, I am going to go ahead and wrap us up here. I had some wins. I definitely had some misses this week, but I got to some books that I've been really wanting to get to. So I'm really glad that I decided to participate in Winterween. It's always a fun time to set aside a week for reading thrillers and horror and the like. Let me know in the comments below. Have you been participating? What's been your favorite read of the readathon? Have you read any of these books? Have you read the rest of Empire of the Vampire? Do you predict I will love them equally? I don't know that I said, but I'm giving Empire of the Vampire 4.5 stars. I think I forgot that part. But in any case, if you've made it this far and you don't have anything to comment, how about a vampire emoji to let me know you are here? If you could hit that like button below, I would surely appreciate it, and subscribe if you're interested in more of my readathon participation, more of my book reviews, and more of my bookish content in general. But for now, I'll leave you here and see you real soon in a new video.